on violence against women and the impact violence in the home has on children and youth, including the impacts in the classroom for students and teachers. So the VIP connects students and schools to CWWA programs as a support for children who experience domestic violence. And people have been very creative throughout the province in finding ways to deliver VIP. But unfortunately, we only have 3 ways that actually the money goes to support. So awareness presentations is one way. That can be students and teachers, PAC groups or counselors in the district. We can offer CWWA groups in school on site. That helps with barriers that some families have in coming to community programs. And then presentations and awareness to adults on Pro D days and team days. So those are really, to follow the intention of the VIP program. And sticking to these 3 outreach pieces really helps evaluate the VIP in order to hopefully secure future funding, which Renee, who will be with us today, we're pleased to have her, and she'll explain that in a few moments. So in June, honoraria will be dispersed to programs when their evaluation forms and online stats have been received. And these are some of the expense costs that can be recouped. So things you can spend it on snacks and refreshments and extra staff hours to deliver the program, any supplies you need, mileage also to and from schools is up for grabs in terms of the cash or the honoraria that you receive. So that's a little bit of a background for those who are new, but we're really lucky to have Lisa Friesen here. We're going to start with our guest speaker. She's the first one up. Now, what Rhiannon has said, I think you already are unmuted, so I'll skip that little note. So each of the people that you're hearing from today have generously shared their tools with everyone. We ask that you acknowledge them for their work if you move forward and adapt them. So if you see some ideas you like, you can reference who you got the ideas from. All the outlines will be emailed to you following the webinar, like the scripts and the tools, evaluation forms that everyone has shared, so rest assured you'll have those. So I'd like to introduce Lisa Friesen, who delivers the VIP program at the Hope and Area Transition Society. In Hope, many of you have communicated that you've run into challenges getting into the schools in your community. And Lisa has provided folks with a lot of materials which range from sample letters to parents, worksheets, outlines from kindergarten up to grade 10 on how VIP activities meet and relate to the Ministry of Education curriculum. So Lisa, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so like was shared, I am part of Hope and Area Transition Society, and I live in Hope, BC. I've actually lived here for many years. My children went through the school system here in Hope, so that has probably been advantageous to me personally getting into the schools. I absolutely appreciate going in. I tell the students that it's always a privilege, and I share with the teachers it's a privilege for me to share with the schools and with the students this important information. One of the things in the last years that I have done for part of this program is I've really delved into and started to really look at the Ministry of Education website. So although we're not teachers presenting on this, we know that teachers and administration have to follow Ministry of Education guidelines. Many of you have heard recently over the news and different places lots of things about this whole new curriculum. Last spring, I spent a good deal of time combing through it and looking at something that you may have heard before if you have students in the system, and that's IRP. What IRP actually stands for is Integrated Resource Package, and they will show through the ministry curriculum by grade. And then on the handout that you are looking at now, this is a sample outline that I actually provide for teachers, so this would be to a grade 4 classroom. And then down, if you look down the first column, it says from ministry website. And then on the second one, so under sexual abuse, day 2, when I go in, it says PLO from ministry website. What PLO stands for is prescribed learning outcome. Most teachers are familiar with that terminology, and that's what they've been using. However, I will say it's actually now not in the new curriculum. I recently had a conversation with a good friend who's a vice principal at a school, concerned that my outline, I now need to really look at using the new curriculum. How is that going to change? I've spent some good time doing this. Will it look different? And he assured me what I have is fine. It's great. He's been, within the school system for a long time. So there's 2 pieces to that. Yes, I'm happy to present. I've actually started presenting in one of the local schools already this year. I just finished this morning my 4th day in the grade 4 class, and it went quite well. And they do appreciate that it's curricular. That's one of the things that they do share with parents, that as a guest presenter, that I do follow ministry guidelines. However, with that said, looking at now the new curriculum, there's 2 pieces to that. One, it can feel really daunting. So if you have had opportunity, that's great. If not, I do encourage you to take a look, open up the Ministry of Education website. Interestingly, you can still do a Google search, Ministry of Education IRP, so again, Integrated Resource Package, and you'll see them by grade. So that's part of the old one that came out in 2006, which wasn't even very long ago. But now looking at the new one, you can do some little bit of searching, and you can click on, after one page, find the curriculum. You can browse by subject, and this is where you will start to really notice some differences. When I did put these things together, I was finding my information that connects with CWWA program under the health and career education topics. It's changed now, so you won't have these slides, and this is something that I will be working on in the near future. And though it may sound a little daunting, it's actually pretty straightforward. It's under physical and health education. So that is the area where CWWA will really fit nicely under that. And then I think our next presenter will speak a little bit more around that, specifically around high school. So if you flip we see the next screen here. So it says grade 10 outline. I have been able to go in and do presentations with the grade 8 planning classes within our school district and the grade 10 planning classes. In fact, in our school district, we still have both of those, grade 8 planning and grade 10 planning, and I have scheduled dates to go in and do presentations for both grades. Next year, that will change. So right now for elementary, they're using the new guidelines, new ministry guidelines. This year for the high school, it's kind of still the soft approach. They are saying, yes, go ahead and start using the new one, but next year, absolutely they will. So they will actually not have the traditional planning 10 class. They will have a career education class, and then it will also fall under physical and health education that we will be going in. Each school district will look a little bit different for that. What else can I tell you about it? I think for me, having the outlines and then also providing the teachers with the sample, the different handouts that I will use, has been helpful. So we're now looking at a sample parent letter. So what I have done here is I actually give it to the teacher to adapt and adopt however they see fit, and then to put it in the newsletter, or some of them use different means to communicate with families, to just share that I'll be coming in and that I'm sensitive to the student needs. Okay, and then the last slide is just an example of some of the different handouts that I have created. And again, I like to put them in the package when I give the outline to the teacher, just so that they're fully aware, the school administration, support staff, that they know what kind of is happening during the presentations. I think I will leave it there, and then I can answer any questions about them later.
Thank you. I don't know if I'm still live, but Lisa, thank you very much. And again, rest assured that those slides, that information will be coming to everyone who's on the webinar. And we may have time at the end if you have specific questions for Lisa, if you'll hold them on the chat. That would be great. We will have some time today to maybe answer a few questions that we can. I'm really pleased to introduce our next speaker. So Colleen Making is the CWWA counselor at the SAFE Society in Shuswap. And she's agreed to speak about the next step in getting administrators involved. So, you know, after you've done your background work with the Ministry of Ed goals that Lisa spoke about, you can meet with teachers and administrators, et cetera. So, Colleen, I'll just hand that over to you.
Sorry. Thank you, Tracy. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm not in my regular office. So I was on the original VIP advisory, part of one of the first sites. So I've had a long-standing history with VIP, and I've been with the SAFE Society for over 22 years. So working in schools was not always easy. So when I was reflecting on this, I had to think about the beginning of my journey in this work and the things I had to do, because it's very different for me now accessing schools than it was when I first started working in the Children Who Witness Abuse program. So one of the things I found living in Salmon Arm, the geographic region is quite diverse, and it's quite broad. And so I had to figure out what could I realistically offer when I was going out there. So I had to know what is my actual school district versus my Children Who Witness Abuse contract, because they don't always match up. So I had to know what schools could I viably connect with and really make that work initially to create that credibility, because I couldn't go too broad or too thin. So it's really knowing that and really having a plan about what are the schools. Is there a school I'm more comfortable with? Is there an age group I'm more comfortable with? So then it was like, well, so what am I going to offer them? And how do I make that really clear? Because educators, you know, they ask you questions, and that confidence and clarity of the program I'm offering. So how do we do that? And how do you access the people who make these decisions? So one of the things that I've learned is going through the school board office. You can contact the school board office to be placed on a principal's meeting list, and they hold meetings monthly throughout the school year. And if you can get on the agenda, they'll give you 10 minutes to present. So it's about being really clear about what you're presenting and the value to the principals and their school for making that, for your services to be available in the school. If that is not happening for you and it's getting difficult, my early journey was going to schools where I knew people, my own children. My children are all adults now, but then they were not. They were young, so I was in a specific school. Who should I talk to? Who are the regional, like in our school district, there's one school counselor for 6 different schools, so who are they? How do I get to meet them? So connecting and talking with them on a personal level and building those relationships. So I know all of this is really common sense, and I have more, there are, being present in the schools, connections, and sometimes it was just a matter of, I have a client that they can't get to my office. Can I meet them at your school? And that was a way into a school to see clients there. Plus, it made it more accessible for my clients who don't have transportation and have poverty issues. So it was opening the doors that way. It was really important to look at the barriers, because specifically for me, I've encountered where I've worked with teenagers where their parent was an abuser and they were also a principal of a school. So it was really challenging to know that in small towns. So when you're listing those barriers, you have to be really authentic in your work of what can I realistically do and why am I bumping into these barriers. And I think we've jumped to the barriers. We've missed a slide, though, I think. Thank you. So we know the impact of witnessing abuse, and I think sometimes it feels really staged, the conversation, or really we're not comfortable because it's not our language of how we describe something. So there are great handouts, and I know from the VIP manual, the impact of witnessing abuse on children and youth in the classroom, the link is below, is really valuable. But finding our own passion within that of how do we make that relatable for people who aren't on our side, who don't understand, to kind of change it with our passion to the need for the value of how we can help them, how we can help their jobs as teachers be better, if you're talking to teachers, or the counselors to help them with ideas and activities and presentations. So those are all things I have done over the years, and it's very successful for me now. I have 4 or 5 schools that actually save office space for me each year to go in and run groups. I've run multiple 8, 10-week groups with all grade 12 boys. I've ran groups for over 200 grade 8 boys for a succession of over 200 minutes throughout the school year. So I've had multiple successes in these attempts and credibility as personnel and staff get to know me and the requests are broadening. So I know I'm running out of time.
You've still got a couple minutes. I went to this slide, but do you want me to go forward? Or
yeah, thank you.
One more?
Yep.
Okay.
So this is a sample outline that I put together, and there is another brief package that I was thinking about when I was reflecting on my early days. One of the very first things I did was I approached a junior high school targeting grade 10s because it was junior high back then. That's how old I am. And I had some money. I got pizzas, and I did a lunchtime event. So it was very short. It was very specific. And I used the video on When Love Hurts, and it was around dating violence prevention. So that was my in. It was a lunch, so it was voluntary for whoever wanted to show up. I made a pre-evaluation just based on some generic questions. So is it okay for a man to hit a woman? Yes or no? I just very generic questions, pre-test. Watched the video, had some discussions, and then gave a post-test. And the value in that was incredible for teachers because there was about 40 participants, 80% of the pre- and post-evaluations came in, and the difference in the I didn't know and the change in opinion was really valuable to give. So if you can find something that you're passionate about, that you have really strengths in, about bringing to a school in a small way to begin can be quite successful for opening those doors. And I wanted to touch on, because we just talked about this before our conference started, about the change in curriculum, because ours has started to change, and I've already been in meetings with our administration and them putting me to work this year because ours has changed this year here in my school district. And in this school district, it's called PE, Health and Careers. So under health, instead of going to PE class once a week, there'll be a health class. So with the help of my support team, which is the school counselors and the principals and vice principals, they went to all their staff and said, so what are the issues? What's important to you guys? We've narrowed that down. Now we're doing a monthly survey with the students to find out what their issues are. I'm in collaboration with developing then what those topics are to fit in with our Violence is Preventable of what I can offer for what I teach. So, and we're making a theme about that for the whole year, that the teachers can continue to teach that prevention work throughout the year. And I do this work, for me, from grade 6 to 12 is really where I have the most impact. I work with other elementary schools, but on a different level, but from grade 6 to 12 in our district, which is 4 different schools, is where I spend a lot of time. And then I have the sample outline that you can see. So I think that's all I have for me at this time.
Colleen, thank you. That's fabulous. I'm so excited about the resources both you and Lisa have been able to share with everyone provincially, that we're actually doing this and connected, because people have been working for a long time and there's no reason why we need to keep reinventing the wheel. wherever we are. So appreciate that. And again, we'll get to questions if people have specific questions for Colleen. So I work at Haven Society. I'm taking a little chunk of time now to talk a little about some presentations that our team has developed. So really, we were one of the first VIP sites as well when the pilot first came out. Our team has been passionate about reaching out to schools, knowing that really such a small percentage of children who could use our support and families that could use our support walk through our doors. So reaching out to schools has become something that we're committed to, even in years when there wasn't VIP funding. We just decided we needed to keep doing it. We have at different times applied for more money, and we're able to really expand. We got a big grant from the Canadian Women's Foundation, which meant we were in schools a lot one year, and then, of course, the money went and we weren't the next year, and so that's difficult when that happens. So we have sort of scaled back in a way. We don't advertise it as widely because of the amount of money that is available to us for VIP. And like a few speakers have mentioned before, we've tried many different things. So in high schools, we first presented to grade 10 classes, and we prepared a series of 4 presentations, and we tried to reach every grade 10 class in the district that we could. We have 4 high schools in Nanaimo, and 5 and 6, including Ladysmith and up north. So that became difficult to attend to, and then we had also people on our team working in the primary grades and the elementary schools and presenting to those children. And of course, they're very different presentations and requiring really different skills. So we used to also go in with a series of presentations into elementary schools, and we would sometimes bring Tulip Doesn't Feel Safe. And you know, what we started to see was the most help that we thought we could be to schools and to particularly young people was to make this topic absolutely as safe, in fact, enjoyable if possible. So we stopped bringing in films because, for those of you who know Tulip, you know, they're shouting and yelling, and we couldn't be responsible or felt that it was okay for how many of the students in the class may react. So I make big use of some certain tools. So here's kind of a really sketched down outline, and I've actually given Rhiannon a script of all the things I actually say if people find that helpful. We've had many educators and teachers come in and line the back of the room to see what we're doing and how we do it when we go into classrooms, because like many adults, they also don't know how to broach this subject or talk about it safely with kids without kids feeling maybe flooded or overwhelmed. So we make use of these puppets. They're called Give a Little Giggle puppets, and they come alive and they change the topic from being one of distress and fright to actually what we're doing is resourcing what children do to stay safe, and that becomes the focus. And so from K up to as old as 5, and even we've brought the puppet into grade 6s to show the grade 6s what we do in the grade 2 class so they can play along if we present it that way. And we're mainly focusing on children's responses. So, you know, one of the most difficult things is when young children hear that I've come in to talk to them about when someone in the home is frightening people and hurting people's bodies or their feelings, and the family may not be feeling safe. Young children will blurt out what's happening in their lives. They may never have heard this announced before. And, you know, one thing we want to be careful to do is not overwhelm children, either the storyteller or the people listening to the stories, about what's happened. So we can quickly ask, wow, and what did you do? And the children come up with the most amazing, resourceful, as you know, responses. And then the presentation becomes, that's a great idea. What else can we do to stay safe? And that becomes what we're asking children. And they tell us about hiding under their beds, and they tell us about calling their auntie, and they tell us about going out their window and jumping on the trampoline and grabbing their younger siblings. And so part of, you know, what Colleen was talking about and talking to the staff before we present is how important their eyes and ears are in the classroom. Because even if we were to do a series of 6 presentations, we're really not there every day on the ground with these families, and we need the school staff to be watching and paying attention to how their classroom children are responding to this topic. So I read a terrible thing happened with Sherman, and we blow up a balloon while I'm reading the story to talk about how Sherman was feeling. I changed the name of the counselor in the book to the school counselor's name, which becomes funny for kids to think their school counselor is in that book, and she's in the room, and so is the Aboriginal support person and any CYC people. So when we give our 3 messages to children, which is it's not your fault, and that if you get in the middle, you might get hurt, and that you're not alone. And when the puppet tells them they're not alone, we can ask them to look around the room and see all the adults in the room that are here with you. And so, you know, we want to impress upon the adults in the school, the support staff, the teachers, that really this is for them in many ways. It's like part assessment for them of who's in their room and what's going on in their lives. So a child who does a helping hands activity that cannot think of one person in their life that they can talk to is obviously at great risk and needs support, and we need the people in the school to notice that, and our pamphlets go home with everyone. So, you know, we decided we would rather have you know, every student in the school to hear those messages once and to have a pamphlet go home with everyone than focusing on a particular grade and giving more presentations than one. And in fact, it's the puppet they remember. So even if our staff change and come in, as soon as that puppet comes out, kids are like, I remember you. So the relationship is actually built with the puppet instead of possibly a changing CWWA staff. So we do, you know, a lot of breathing in class with them. I use tools for that as well. So it isn't that long. It's maybe 40 minutes, but it's quite an energized, safe, actually quite fun-filled time. And so that's what we've worked on, rather than showing films or going too deep or really into. We used to start and talk a lot about feelings, how kids feel, but then we didn't know where to go with that after we acknowledged all their feelings. So we found it more helpful and resourceful to really celebrate the ways that kids stay safe. We have run groups. This is a really basic outline, and you'll get more sent to you, I believe, in the package. We have tried groups in many schools. One school decided they wanted all their grade 7 students to take this group because they thought all students were at risk, not just certain students that they knew maybe having particular issues at home, which we thought was quite what a radical notion. And again, it was a lot of resources to be and to deliver to every grade 7. So we have preferred and decided to kind of focus on our presentations more than in-school groups. The relationship we've built with our current school that we're kind of focusing on or working with, after 3 years have decided they would like to approach us to do a CWWA group. They actually have enough students of a certain developmental stage that they think it'll work. So I think that's up to every agency to figure out with their resources what they can manage and handle with the funds available. So that's sort of what our team that I'd like to share today in terms of where we're at and what we're focusing on in the Nanaimo district. The final step, as you all know, in preparing to deliver VIP is the evaluation process. Renee Turner, who is Rhiannon's colleague and the colleague of all the fabulous folks that support us at BCSTH, she's also the research coordinator for the Reaching Out with Yoga project. So Renee, I will turn the floor over to you now.
Great. Thank you, Tracy. I just wanted to let everyone know that I am in a little bit of a busy alleyway, well, our office is, and there's some construction going on, so I apologize in advance if there's any disruptive noise. So thank you so much for having me. I am going to just go over the importance of evaluation when we're doing programs like VIP. My background is in research and in program evaluation. So I'm quite an advocate for a good evaluation, and not just because I'm nosy and nerdy and just for the heck of it, but really because I know the value of evaluating something in order to prove to decision makers that this is a valuable intervention or program or whatever it is that we're evaluating, and then hopefully those decision makers or those funders decide that yes, this is a worthwhile investment and we're going to continue to give money to this. So there's obviously a practical side of it. So the 3 activities that we're hoping for evaluation from for this VIP year, many of you already are familiar with. Those are the online statistics form, the student feedback survey, and then the adult feedback survey, and I'm going to go through each of these. So here is a little outline of the online statistics form, which you will get a link to from Rhiannon. This is a way of just basically keeping track of how many presentations you've given, the number of students that were in each of those presentations. And because we're going to only be doing feedback forms with the older kids, we're going to be requesting you to do feedback forms with the older kids, grades 5 and up. It's really important to have obviously the numbers from the younger grades as well. So this is the way that you're going to be tracking how many presentations and groups and grades and schools that you've done with the younger grades as well as the older grades. So this form will be sent to you as well. So this is just on the screen is the student feedback survey, and obviously you'll get the Word version of this. So I'll just outline the questions or kind of the information that we're trying to get in the next slide. But before we go there, just following up on the point about the fact that we're only going to be collecting grades 5 and up. And some of you may wonder how come. Really, we only want to collect information that's going to be not only easy for you to facilitate, but also that's going to be useful and reliable and things like that. So we've just made a call that the younger kids, it might be a lot for them after a presentation. They likely won't feel like sitting down and doing a survey. Also, it's harder to get reliable information the younger the kids are. So for that age group, we're just interested in how many kids were reached with the program and how many presentations were given to them. So that's kind of the justification behind why we're only asking the older kids. So next slide. Yeah, perfect. So these are some of the questions that are on the feedback survey, and it's just been tweaked a little bit this year to make sure that we're getting the type of information that we want. The scaled questions, so there's kind of a 1 to 5, where 1 is not at all true and 5 is very true. So things like, I learned what the signs of violence and abuse are. I learned about where I can get help if I am exposed to violence. The things I learned today are important for me to know. I think that all students should get a chance to have a VIP presentation in their class. And then the open-ended questions, where we're hoping to get a little bit more qualitative information or more their thoughts about the presentation. One new thing that you learned. Oh, I recognize a little typo there. One new thing, not think, that you learned in today's presentation. So rather than just saying, what's something that you will remember from today, or what did you like today, we're really trying to ask them to write down one learning outcome or one new bit of information that they got, which is really great information to pass on to you, but also to us, and then to our funders to say, look, this was not known before and now it's known. And then 1 or 2 suggestions for how to make the presentation better. So kids are wonderfully creative and they have lots of feedback. So we want to ask them to give us suggestions on what would be helpful for them. Okay, this is the adult feedback survey. So this is for anyone in your presentations, whether you do just a an administrator's presentation, or if they're in the back of the room like some of you were mentioning, really also valuable and important to get their thoughts and feedback, not only about how they feel the presentation went for the kids, but also their learning and what they now feel equipped with and what they can use going forward. So here's some of the questions that we've included, just talking again about increased awareness or increased knowledge, and also support. So where do I go? Do I know now that I've taken this presentation, I now know where children and youth can go or who can help, and the importance of the program, and then interested in learning more can give us just some good information about, yes, this is great, but also there's probably room for even a further developed program potentially for the adults in the support roles. And then again, open-ended questions, but quite direct, and trying to get them to actually think and list something that will stay with them, and then something that they recommend for change. They'll have some good suggestions for improvement, seeing as they're the teachers, they're working with these kids, so they'll see some areas for improvement, hopefully for not only the delivery of the presentation, but maybe for their learning as well. So lastly, this is basically just a slide on why we do evaluation, and what do they tell us, aside from just thinking, oh dear, another survey that I'm being asked to fill out. And for you as CWWA workers and the VIP program deliverers, I can appreciate that sometimes it feels like just another task that we have to submit, but I just want to give a little bit of context to why it is so valuable and so important. So evaluations tell us whether or not the program works. That's a very broad term, obviously. But it can look at responses and see learning outcomes, if they've been achieved, has it changed perceptions, have people learned anything new, and then what is working well and what needs adjusting. So always evaluation is really important to not only say, yeah, we're wonderful, we're getting 5s all around, but also what are some suggestions for change, or some ways that it could be tailored or tweaked for different audiences or different ages or different, obviously, communities. And this is a really broad question, and it often takes into account multiple people's ideas or opinions, which is really great. So we can hear the kind of plethora of opinions to do with the presentation. What do people like? So enjoyment, fun, just interest in participating again is really important as well. This is mostly about, typically it's usually about format and delivery and activities within the presentation. And then you'll also get some of this information just from chats with the teachers and with the administrators afterwards. So you'll have some more ideas in your head, obviously, of what went well and what didn't, and what people seem to like and enjoy. So that's also going to be anecdotal, just your conversations with people. Fourth is, what is the reach? So this will be really monitored by the online statistics form. Funders love the numbers as far as, okay, how far is our money going? How many kids is it touching? This program's touching 6,400, whereas this program's touching only 400. So we're going to go with the one that's touching 6,000. And whether that's right, I'm not commenting on that, but the numbers are important for a variety of things, and like you were saying, a few of you were saying before, you've decided to go with getting more kids the knowledge rather than working week by week with the same smaller group of kids. So I think the understanding of increasing the reach is shared by many. And then lastly, is it worthwhile? So that's kind of a broad question, and of course, it does come down to funding. Based on all the answers to the above questions, it's easier to make the claim that, yes, this is a beneficial program when we know that there are some increased learning, some increased knowledge, that's enjoyable, it's reaching lots of kids, etc. We all feel and know that this is important and beneficial just from where we're coming from, what we do, the conversations we have, plus we obviously believe wholeheartedly in it. but it's almost like you need to take yourself away from your position and imagine you're a skeptic and you're being proposed this program. What would you want to know, and how would you be convinced to say, yes, this is important, this is a good program, it makes a difference, and I would put money toward it. So I'm kind of asking you to just step into that role a little bit, and that hopefully will help you understand that there is such value in doing these evaluations. So lastly, just to finish up, these are just a few quotes from some of the previous evaluation forms, just some of the qualitative information that we get, which is so reassuring. Abuse isn't okay. I learned to take any kind of violence seriously. I will remember how many places I can go to for help. We need to make the world a safer place for victims of violence. The last one, everything. It helped me realize to break up with an abusive boyfriend. So actually, like actions from the presentation, just from however long that presentation was. So pretty moving, pretty amazing. And these are the kinds of things, the stories, the personal experiences. These are the kinds of things also that we want to know and integrate into our evaluation and our future planning for the program, as well as pass on to our funders in our reports and in our meetings and things like that. So that's everything for me. Thank you.
Renee, thank you. Nothing geeky or nerdy about it. It's vital that we can talk about and evaluate what we do and bring more people on board to why we're so passionate about being in schools with this and how we can work together. So thank you. Thanks for that. This last section, I'm not sure if everyone is aware, who's on the call, is aware of just all the resources already that are available. I know you may feel like you've landed in some program and you don't have anything and you don't know how to start or where to go. So Rhiannon has put this section together so that people don't feel so alone, and that you have information about films and books and things that you can access right now. So that's the VIP listserv. It's a place you can ask a question and someone will respond to you about what they've tried or what they've done. If you don't receive any of the materials by tomorrow, then you're probably not on the listserv, says Rhiannon. So please email Rhiannon and let her know. That way she can add you. So there's online training that was developed. We all know how important in-person training is, but they hardly ever fund it, or they fund it so minimally. So there is some online training that was developed. You can talk to PACA. There's the address right there. This is the second version of the VIP online training. And as you know, there's an advisory committee that's been struck to update the CWWA toolkit, and the hope is that this will also be updated. So VIP will get some updates as well, along with the best practices manual. Specific to VIP, BCSTH has done some really great work on a DVD video series. I've used these extensively. There's some really touching scenes and fabulous acting work. I can't even believe some of the young actors are actually actors. I don't know that they are. And they're online. They're available. You don't have to buy the CD. There's where you can get them on YouTube. And then they updated the series again with supporting students exposed to violence. And there's a link to the VIP manual for those of you who didn't know, who haven't seen that. Break the Silence, that was the more recent video past the first 3 that was done. You can access the public service announcement, using hockey stars to give a message to kids. And that's the BC Lions. I think, no, wait a minute, is that the hockey player? Maybe someone will type in and answer. But that's the YouTube link to that video where you can. Someone help me out. What's his name? I don't have TV. Hang it. Kessler. Thank you. Right on, Renee. Brian Kessler, right, who speaks about violence in the home. And last but not least, the fabulous library at BCSTH, where you can order online. They will mail it to you for free. They include mailing postage where you can send it back to them for free. So there's actually information on learning how to borrow, and we still have Tina with us, fabulous Tina, she's brilliant at advising and pointing people in the right direction, so don't hesitate to email Tina. So really, if you've never made use of the library, you're missing out, because it's quite fabulous what you can get from there. These are some other resources that people across the province have recommended. Not Alone, which is a DVD. The students are about in grade 6 or 7, a fabulous resource. It's at the BC Library. Would You Stop Yourself? I don't know if you've seen, that's a very powerful public service announcement. There's the link. Lisa on a 911 call, fairly gripping, not appropriate for all ages. Tulip, Doesn't Feel Safe, I mentioned, that's at the BC Library. Some safety planning videos by the government, and Children Learn What They Live, a public service announcement. So, and on the listserv, there's always more that people are sharing with each other about resources that are powerful, important, and helpful in classrooms. So that brings us to the end of our the first VIP webinar. There's Rhiannon's email and phone number to call or email anytime. And I'm not sure. I see that there's some people, right, that Colleen, maybe everyone can see that, right? Everyone goes, Ryan Kessler, Ryan Kessler. Thanks, everybody. So I don't know if there are questions. We have about 5 minutes left. And I guess that I would maybe, I think everybody can see that, but maybe if there are any specific questions to Lisa, to Colleen, to myself, to Renee, that people would like to shout out now, we maybe have time. If not, you can gather them. You can send them to Rhiannon. The materials will be coming, as she said. I don't know if any of the other speakers wanted to add anything, or feel free to jump in. Colleen, Lisa, Renee?
This is Colleen. I dispatched to resources with the 911 Lisa call. Rhiannon and I, in 2012, presented to other clinicians and advertisers at a conference in Canmore. And I've used the Lisa 911 with adults. And it's for the non-converted, the people who are skeptical of the impact of abuse. It is graphic, but it really helps to kind of grab the attention that this is serious, because we forget to look through the eyes of a child and the way that it's framed. So there's always more information. And personally, I love talking to other children who witness abuse counselors, because I like the dialogue and to bounce off ideas and to share ideas. So I just wanted to put that out there on that one.
Thank you. Thank you very much for adding that.
Hi, Tracy.
Yay, Rashid, yes.
Yeah, so I see there are 2 questions over there. I think the first one, actually I flagged it a while ago. It was from Rosalind, and she was wondering, I think it was Lisa who was speaking, and she asked about, Lisa was talking about finding the new ministry's guidelines online. Would Lisa be able to clarify that?
Yes. Yeah. Okay, so I can go ahead then. Mm-hmm. So basically, as children who witness abuse counselors, when we approach schools, for me, it's just nice to have some background, some familiarity with what the Ministry of Education, what are they saying to their teachers? What information do teachers have for their classrooms? And so we can go on, anybody can access, who can access the internet, of course we all can, and Google, like we can just check out Ministry of Education. So like I was saying earlier, with the older curriculum, which is still being used, and it's just right now in the change place. So teachers are becoming familiar with this, and they call it the new curriculum. So it's just being implemented now. So I would just encourage people, when you have a little bit of time, go on there and just take a little bit of look around what is all of this whole new, what are the buzzwords, what's this new curriculum all about. So they have some different core competencies, which include communication, thinking, personal and social competencies. So different things like that, which can feel a little intimidating. And then what does each subject require? What are they looking at? What are their learning standards? What are their curricular competencies? So I was sharing earlier that really the CWWA program would fit under physical and health education. So if you were to do that little search and then browse by subject, you could look under the physical and health education, pick a grade level. So for me right now on my laptop here at home, I've got 2 laptops set up. So looking at grade 5, they actually have curricular competencies. And this is something that I was actually interested in just looking at, like what are teachers needing to know? So it's sort of like students are expected to be able to do the following, and then, scrolling down and looking a little bit under mental well-being and how they link into the community, social and community health. It's just kind of helpful to have a little bit of that background, and so to see some of the unsafe, abusive, exploitive situations, that's something that teachers, that they need to be looking at and presenting to students. So with that said, one of the things that I did notice as I've looked around at that, so for example, with that category, with the physical and health, it says that there's no, and this is interesting, so what it does, it actually leaves the teacher wide open to explore how they're going to present it, which is where we can step in the field and to share our knowledge around it. So it says, no fixed curriculum model for PHE. As with other areas of learning, the structure and format chosen will be based on the strengths and needs of the students, teachers, school, community, and school district. And that's why, so for example, with Colleen sharing earlier, knowing the school district, knowing administration and teachers, and then to partner up and say, this is something that we can offer, can be very empowering.
Thank you, Lisa. I see there's one more question that Tamara had about starting a brand new program in the South Okanagan, and I know that Colleen mentioned we have maybe a minute left, but Colleen, if you wouldn't mind just saying, let's say a brand new program, where would you start?
Oh, sorry, I was muted. I think, Tamara, I guess for going into the school, for a group, for a presentation, happy to chat, have lots of resources. Used to be really involved. Like our region used to meet, and we used to know all the people in the South Okanagan. We used to all get together and share our ideas and go over groups. And so I'm happy to set that up with you to talk further. But brand new, I guess it's beginning, if it's about getting into the school, what school are you targeting and what age group? And to start from there. And then have a really good plan.
Yeah, and any connections, I think you mentioned too that you have, any people that are relationships you may have existing, may be a way in to be able to present to some staff or district-wide. So I'm glad to hear that connection has been made. I really appreciate Colleen and Lisa and Renee and Rashid giving his support. We were all brand new first time at doing this. I do want to stick to our time as people have busy days. So really appreciate everyone being together for the hour. I know you're out there. I can see you online. So let's stay connected through the VIP listserv. And again, Rhiannon and folks from the BCSTH will be in touch, sending out these materials, and I feel like a conversation has really just begun between all of us. So thanks everybody for being here.
And thank you so much, Tracy, for hosting this at the very last minute. We really do appreciate it.
My pleasure, Rashid. Thank you.
Okay.
Tracy, thank you. You're fabulous.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. And now I'm just going to stop the meeting so you'll all be disconnected. But we hope to continue the conversation on the listserv.
Yes. Okay, thanks, everyone. Take good care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.